Alright, so let's be honest here. Too much blue? Anyway, hey everybody, what's up? This is Retrokid Reviews doing not another big important review with a big important shot of a movie review this week. And as much as I would love to quote the whole putting a invisible blocker here on this adult acne, I'm gonna be honest with you. Alluding aside, let's get this over with. What is my overall thoughts and review for Fantastic Four First Steps? Well, the good news is if you're MCU and you want a banger first weekend, turns out as of Monday of recording this, after its first weekend, for those first steps, by the way, it got a whopping 118 million domestic here in the States. I think it's got another 100 million to go for its budget to break a little even. Internationally, they're basically there. This is gonna go stateside wise now, more or less. They got 218 on estimated 200 million, and for a runtime of I think under 2 hours, which is like the second movie in a row as far as the previous phase and this new phase going into Doomsday. I think under 2 hours is going to be like the vibe for a while. So with that being said, what is the plot of this movie? Well, pretty simple. What if we did the chase scenes from Terminator 2, but had like a bigger galactic or Galactus size stakes to it? But before we get to those stakes, let's get to the actual Fantastic Four themselves. What is my thoughts on the following? I got the IG out just for this, just to let you guys know. Vanessa Kirby, Sue Storm, Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, Evan Moss Backrack, Ben Grimm, otherwise known as The Thing, Yancey Street and all, and Joseph Quinn coming off of his time in Stranger Things. Speaking of, I am very much aware of the final season teasers and trailers. I forgot to put that in the Retro Rex or reacts to all of that, and along with some Critical Role stuff I'll be mentioning at the end of this review, his version of Johnny Storm. So my thoughts on the four themselves is actually good. It's humor and playfulness of like each other on their downtime as a family does remind me a little bit of the Tim Story era of those movies of like the 2000s era, like the right down to like basically like screwing with Johnny screwing with The Thing, kind of reminiscing of me of like Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis' thing. So, another thing I noticed when I was watching, I believe, the marketing for all of this, especially their blue carpet premiere last week, is that they had like 2 people total from that era of the movies, but everybody from the Roger Corman canceled, never been released. Fantastic Four showed up as a big cameo and when they were doing like the citizen montage of like thanking the Fantastic Four for the first 4 years into their job, which is where they kind of really are characters wise. They're kind of their first foray into their Earth is A210, which is not A210, A28. My apologies. Again, this is just my first viewing of the movie. I'll probably get a little more tighter when it comes out on Disney Plus for the end of the year later this year, as far as reviews go. Outside of that, there is a good naming convention for that Earth. It's basically, I think, a reference after Jack Kirby's birthday. The big reason why I haven't really talked too much about Jack Kirby in general, as far as Marvel stuff goes, is he is the king. He is the real reason why a good portion, if not the majority of Marvel's existence. Yes, there is Stan Lee, but there is also Jack Kirby. And for those who had to sit through the last several years of Stan, aside from the potential elder abuse he must have had during cons, not getting into that stuff because that is weird, just mentioning as is. There's also the battle of who was first on the whole penmanship of writing the Marvel universe as we see it today. And other than that, that's kind of how it is. On to the actual backdrop of like the setting of this fantastical pun intended version of like a retro futuristic 50s to 60s kind of New York is actually really cool for what it is for this Earth. Very like old Hollywood kind of like tech and stuff like that all over in like a sci-fi background, and for Pedro just playing around with the tech and everything as this version was like pretty easy on him. I thought that would be hard to like show off like more of the intellect instead of like the charisma that he naturally would have for like a semi-fatherly role that him and Sue are going through, becoming new parents into Franklin Richards. Another reason why I hope a certain, I don't know, Disney Plus series gets referenced when we get to Doomsday is mainly because Franklin Richards had a big role with more importantly his not ancestors, successors, descendants later down the road for that series for Kang. I don't think they'll recast him after everything that happened with it on John the Majors. I feel like they should later down the road, not eventually. Is kind of attitudes there. The plot of this is, like I said, T2 but with a Galactus on top of it. Which might be really interesting, since next year is going to be his 35th anniversary. I already did a big review for when it turned 30 during the pandemic, so if you want me to do a re-review of that, probably not going to happen. I could try to recreate a scene for T2, just in case. And the reason why there's a lot of T2 vibes is for Shalabal's Silver Surfer, played by Julia Gardner of Ozark fame, now going to be weapons later down the road for that horror movie. And apparently in Gardner's case, she absolutely needed this because she did not have a decent start for 2025. For those who remember that Wolfman reboot with Lee Winnell's version for Blumhouse. Yeah, that was a whole weird mess there. Outside of that, again, like I said, the backdrop of all this is like not insane enough as it is. I'm sporadic and getting more cast oriented with the plot, so my bad in advance. The tech is great, the suits are great, and let's just, I guess, since we're back to plot oriented, let's go cast by cast here. Forever Moss's version of Ben is really nice. It's subtle, like they had like the brow, if you've seen the marketing for the trailers, pretty much almost Alex Ross inspired for the CG when it comes to like the facial features and everything when it comes to that version of Ben. I didn't know, and I didn't do, my channel has pried over the last couple of years not to do a lot of spy shots just because it's out of context and we won't know till the final film kind of stuff, and it's more speculative, and I don't want to be that speculative about stuff nowadays for a multitude of reasons, which I won't get into for this review. But if I was in that kind of habit, I would have saw Evan be in a full thing costume. I think the whole idea of it was to like have ILM or whoever's their CCG team match it and have like a more natural movement, because when you see it in the final product of like the montage of like their first 4 years on the job, it feels more natural. It feels more like lived in kind of stuff. Like I think even the sound mixing for Ben just like walking around makes a lot of sense. Again, go to, I want to say, New Rockstars that he broke down pretty much every VFX stuff there too. Another thing I want to talk about is Galactus by Rolf Leeson. He is insane. He looked like a comic accurate Galactus. I never really got around to do the Tim Story movies, especially for their sequel for Rise of the Silver Surfer. This was kind of a big moment for not just me, but for a lot of Marvel people who have been here and done reviews during the 2000s, because they couldn't really replicate their Galactus back then because it was just a giant cloud kind of thing. Big spoilers there if you don't want to sit through those movies. Little sporadics on that one, just gonna be real with you. Outside of that, for Ralph's version of Galactus, it's pretty good. It's haunting. It's very leveled. You get a good, decent backstory of what is essentially his general crux of what he does in the comics. Like, he's billions of years old. He needs to hunger. He needs to consume the planets as he can, and it's not like just a big like Pac-Man style kind of like chomp for the older subscribers out there, but no, it's more plug oriented. It's more like the ship needs him kind of thing, kind of like an Emodius chair for DC fans, but for on a bigger scale essentially. Speaking of that scale, the ships and everything they had, vehicles-wise, I think, if I'm not mistaken, from the new Rockstars video, were miniatures-oriented. I'm not kidding. They actually had physical miniatures to map around with modern-day CG. It looked great and seamless in the trailers. Same thing also in the final product for the third act, fighting Galactus. Honestly, now onto the topic of, like, who's really the main character and who's, like, my favorite version of the Fantastic Four themselves. I want to say Vanessa Kirby. I see everything about Sue. I think when she was on the blue carpet, she was actually having her first kid. So I guess during the market of it, I think she has a now deeper appreciation of like how much of a parent slash like superhero she's going to be going down the road for this character, along with her actual motherhood in real life. Outside of that, for Joseph Quinn's Johnny Storm, it's way more muted and less like X Games serious that you could for this version of Johnny. Makes sense because they're on another Earth and it is another timeline along with said Earth, so they kind of can't go full modern day extreme sports style. But Johnny was also known after the movies and the comics, but he is strong-headed for about his stuff. He is still trying to be a Res Lord as far as like, getting girls and shit for the marketing, whatever. In real time for the Fantastic Four. The biggest thing for non-comers, no, they are the first family of comics, meaning they are the first superheroes to basically have a not really dual identity. They've always had their identity in the forefront of the news cycle. Depending on the decade, depending on the period, depending on what era of the comics you're going for. If I'm not mistaken, the director of this movie, who also helped WandaVision, Matt Shackman, also was inspired more or less with the Jonathan Hickman runs of the Fantastic Four. I don't know if it is the Ultimates as well, because I believe that universe is finishing out. I believe their Spider-Man comic this December, which sucks because it is actually a decent, wholesome, honest canon relationship they've had with Peter and MJ. In another universe is the Amazing book. It's a whole mess, but I don't want to get too much into it. I want to get to my final ratings for First Steps. Outside of that, I do want to mention one quick thing for Shia LaBeouf's Silver Surfer before we get to scores. My niece, this is like her first big MCU movie. It was really cool and everything, but she did get kind of weirded out on most of her Shia LaBeouf scenes trying to get Frank Richards. I think of that wormhole thing. Great action set piece. Hard as an uncle to try to explain that and also try to not make her half scared half the time. So I don't know. That's kind of how it is. Natasha Lyonne fans are going to be happy that she's basically the crux of most of Ben's scenes outside of being in the team, just going back to Yancey Street and everything. Lifting the car, like you guys probably saw also in the trailers. Again, there's a lot of Jack Kirby-isms in that block of screen time, and it kind of makes sense if you know Jack's history with these characters and his history as a person and everything. Outside of that, the Ted Gilbert Show by Mark Glasses. I think I remember him from Sherlock fame as Minecraft Holmes. Again, been a while, just in case. I think that there were some scenes that got cut with John Malkovich's was it Red Wizard or Red Ghost? It was the guy that was trying to control chimps early on in their montage of everything they've done lately before Galactus. It would have been a nice gag of never having to go to the show, never doing a full interview kind of thing. More or less kind of like an Ed Sullivan kind of reference in late night talk show stuff with the Beatles and things like that. That was a lot of their reference fodder for the retrofuturism of the 60s. So Judgment Time and final ratings. Final rating is a strong 8 out of 10. Now, again, that is a little low for a Marvel movie, but after everything last couple years and Thunderbolts pretty much leading the charge of having decent mid-level budget MCU, it's pretty good. Big spoilers here now for the mid-cred. You do see Doom. You don't see full REJ Doom. Another big spoiler for the post-credit. There's not really much. They pulled a Superman from a couple of weeks ago and said, no, we're going to just have a cutesy little thing on the way out for the kids in case stuff got serious, which was really cool because I had a niece that was literally crashing out in between the scenes. But it's their first big Marvel movie. It's understandable, and I talked about it with my cousin and his wife, and it was a little too early, and we all kind of knew at the end. Outside of that, parental stuff aside, it's a strong 8 out of 10. No high 8s. Probably will get high 8s if I remember this for the end of the years. Who knows? There's not really too much I can remember sporadic spoilers wise. Also for Herbie, the little nice little robot is a cool reference to the cartoons and mostly the cartoons of the 60s. And it makes sense for the vibe and everything. There's a lot of plot-oriented stuff I'll probably talk more about in the end of the year videos. And it wouldn't be an end of the year video hype up this early in the year without me trying to remember a lot of major plots for other movies. So, hey, good luck on future me on that one. So with that all being said, please go see this movie if you can. It is a Marvel movie. It's not, a mid-level. It is a actual decent Marvel movie if you want to put time into it. The only big thing, connecting it to the greater Marvel universe, multiversally speaking now with this movie, it's just Doom at the end of the in the mid-credit. And that's really it. Outside of that, if you just want a fresh start, you want a standalone movie, this is definitely it. And budget-wise and profit-wise so far is definitely helping them in the long run. So good on them for that as far as MCU goes. So with that being said, and the first layer of blue, I might have overblued on this one for the theme of this movie. here to comment down below, sub to the channel, hit the notification bell down below. I am groggy and I absolutely need coffee, in case you can tell with this review. Speaking of said coffee, hopefully over here on this hand, on the end cards, to see my previous video, which was, I think, my rundowns and on shorts for the Critical Roles double post of Vox Machina and Mighty Nine's teasers. I will be doing hopefully a full retro news for not just that and Age of Umbra and just other stuff I'm catching up on. Other hand here too, probably another review later this week is a Netflix catch-up for K-Pop Demon Hunters. Yes, I saw that movie. I'll probably put that in the Rex if anything else. And my overall thoughts with Happy Gilmore 2, to put it bluntly, if you saw my Instagram feed, yeah, I kind of got that weird Sandler craving itch for like a fast food product. Yeah, that's been a thing since Happy Gilmore, and I don't know why on that one. So anyway, with the confusions out of the way, with all that being said, take care, subscribe, and without doing a Christopher Walker reference aside, yeah, how was he not Galactus? This is Retrokid review saying, I'm not gonna say the thing, but like, here's the thing, it was fantastic. I'm not gonna say it again. I'm not breaking up that 2015 reboot. God no.